All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, for the first time in 50 years, the Milwaukee Bucks are champions of the NBA. After losing the first two games of the NBA Finals, the Bucks stormed back to win the next four and defeat the Phoenix Suns. Now, this series was all about Giannis Antetokounmpo as he was the undisputed MVP of the NBA Finals as he averaged 35.2 points, 13.2 boards, and 5 assists for the series. And you look inside of some of Giannis's big games, 42 points and 12 rebounds in game 2. 41 points and 13 rebounds in game 3, 32 points and 9 rebounds in game 5, and then to close things out last night, a big 50 points to go along with 14 boards to clinch the series for Milwaukee. Now, not only in this series, but throughout the playoffs, we really saw Giannis take his game to the next level. We saw him drop, more than 40 points in game 7 of the second round as the Bucks went on the road and beat the Brooklyn Nets. He came back after the knee hyperextension in the Eastern Conference Finals versus the Atlanta Hawks, and he really, and I mean really, put this Milwaukee team on his back. Chris Middleton also stepped up throughout this series as he averaged more than 23 and a half points per contest. And you know what? He was a perfect sidekick in this series for Giannis. Now, on the flip side for the Suns, after a very strong start to this series, Chris Paul did not have the impact in the final 4 games of the series. And I think a lot of that can be credited to this Milwaukee defense. Mike Budenholzer and his team made the adjustments. And, in regards to them making the adjustments, they were the better defensive team through the majority of this series. And I really expected the defensive edge to go to Phoenix throughout this series, but it was Milwaukee. On the flip side, the Bucks made guard Devin Booker really work. Now, he did have 40 points, 40 plus points in both games 4 and 5. But you know what? Throughout this series, you look at Booker and he really had to work, did not have a big impact in game 6. 0 of 7 from beyond the 3-point line. And that's a big reason why the Phoenix Suns fell 2 games short. For me, Milwaukee was able to use their size advantage. Throughout the series, they averaged 46 boards per game to 39 of Phoenix. But it wasn't just what Milwaukee was able to do on the boards. You look at the fact that every time somebody for the Suns was going to drive to the basket, they just had arms at them. You look at Chris Middleton, you look at Giannis, you look at Brook Lopez, you look at Bobby Portis. All of these guys are 6'10 and up, plenty of length. And it's not just the height, it's the length that can affect somebody. It can affect the shooter. It can also affect somebody when they're driving to the basket, and all of those arms flying around on the glass makes it tougher for a team. And you know what? Phoenix was unable to adjust to what Milwaukee did, especially, the different looks that they were throwing at both CP3 and Devin Booker in the final 4 games of this series. You look at it, Mike Budenholzer got the best of Monty Williams. And I mean, you looked at it, Monty Williams was the coach that everybody was talking about heading into this series, and rightfully so, because Monty Williams is the NBA's coach of the year. Monty Williams did a tremendous job in getting the Phoenix Suns to the Western Conference Finals. But right now it's all about Mike Budenholzer. And I say that because it's been a very interesting couple of months for Budenholzer. The rumors were there that coming into the playoffs that he needed to make a serious run in order to save his job, in spite of the fact that he had gotten Milwaukee to the best record in the regular season on multiple occasions. Pardon me, in the Eastern Conference, rather, gotten them to the Eastern Conference Finals once prior to this year. But you know what? The Bucks simply seem to be underachieving in the postseason. It all came full circle for Milwaukee during this postseason run, as they were able to exercise some demons. Remember, last year in the playoff bubble, Milwaukee was dominated by the Miami Heat in the second round. Milwaukee was the 1 seed, Miami was the 5, and the Heat beat them in 5. And you could make a case that that was a 5-game sweep because the one game that Milwaukee did get in that series, they had to fight, scrap, and claw for, and you wonder, wow, did they actually win this game? So, with that said, the Bucks came back. I know, albeit the Heat were an injured team this year, but you know what? They swept them in the first round. They took care of their business. Everything was there for Milwaukee to fold up shop in the second round versus the Brooklyn Nets. They dropped the first two in Brooklyn. They were blown out in game two. Things really changed when Kyrie Irving had that ankle injury, but you know what? Milwaukee took advantage of it, and then they were still down 3-2 with their backs against the wall, came back at home and won game three. And of course, that epic in game seven when it was all about KD and Giannis, but Giannis got the best of KD and moved on. Then you go to the conference finals. The Bucks, they were facing some adversity right there versus the Atlanta Hawks, especially with what Trae Young had been doing throughout the playoffs. Of course, Trae Young had the ankle injury in that series. Giannis also went out with the knee hyperextension, but the Bucks stepped up in the absence of their star, and they were able to get this team to the finals. And then, of course, the adversity once again, because there were people who, after the first two games, were skeptical as to whether or not the Bucks were actually going to be able to win one game in this series, but Milwaukee came back and won the next four. So it's all about the adversity. It's all about the toughness, and that's what makes a champion. And, to the victor goes the spoils, because this is Giannis's moment right here. And, I think he has just opened a new door for his legacy, because he's no longer an MVP who cannot win an NBA championship. He is showing, and he has shown rather, that he is the guy who could get it done. And, it's been a long journey for him. He was a 15th overall pick the year he came out. He's gotten better and better each year. He's taken the criticism as being like, as far as being the Greek freak, but also I say it from the standpoint that, his game is more about the trend, like being in transition, as opposed, he's not a consistent 3-point shooter. And I keep saying, he's better when he's 15 feet and in. And we saw more of that this playoff run. But you know what? It's the mental toughness. And I say it from the standpoint that, Giannis had to deal with a lot of critics out there, because, when you're the MVP, the spotlight is on you. And if you can't get it done in the postseason, you're going to face the criticism. There were people who thought that Giannis was going to opt out in order to be a Robin on a team in a bigger market, and there are some of those who felt like, what, Giannis, he's going to be a guy that's not going to win a ring, but he's going to be a big fish in a small pond in a small market. I thought that after last year, but you know what, Giannis has proved me and a lot of other people wrong. He led and willed this team to a championship, and you have to give him all of the credit for that. So not only now is he a guy who's an MVP, he's also a guy who can get it done in the postseason. And you think about all of those tough losses, and you have to crawl before you walk. And now, Giannis is definitely walking tall, and who knows what more that he can do to add to his legacy going forward. You look at it on the flip side, and what is CP3's legacy? Chris Paul, he's been in the NBA since 2005. This has been a very long journey to get to this point. His first trip to the NBA Finals, he was the sentimental favorite for so many people. And, things look so well for him and the Suns after those first two games, and it simply unraveled. And, at the age of 36, you don't know if CP3 is going to have another opportunity to get to this point, throughout the injuries, throughout the wear and tear on his body for playing so many years in the NBA. But you know what? This is just part of the game, unfortunately. Everybody's not going to win a championship. There's a reason why there was only one trophy handed out each season. But for CP3 and the Suns, they definitely want to try to get back to this spot. It's not going to be easy, because you have to factor in a lot of things. First and foremost, it's once again going to be a shorter off season. I really do think that the NBA is going to try to squeeze in 82 games this time around. So, of course, just like it was last year in the playoff bubble, the teams that were, made that longer postseason run, it's going to be a little bit tougher for them in the following season. So we're going to have to see how the Suns do adjust to that. The only person they really lose Is Cameron Payne? He is a free agent. It'd be interesting to see if he comes back. But it's still going to be tough in the Western Conference. You know that the Lakers are going to retool. They're not going to take a first round exit from the playoffs laying down. You have to wonder about teams such as the Dallas Mavericks, Denver Nuggets getting healthy, the Clippers. What's going to be the situation with Kawhi Leonard? There's a lot of different things to factor in there for the Phoenix Suns in order to get back out of the West. Devin Booker, in spite of the Suns not winning, Devin Booker really stepped up and showed something during this postseason run. He established himself as a big time player in game number one of the playoffs versus the LA Lakers. And, of course, in helping to close out the Lakers in game six at Staples in that first round. Devin Booker's always been a proven scorer. I've always said, though, that, when the Suns have more balance on offense, they are better. And typically, unfortunately for Booker, when he has those big scoring outbursts, Phoenix doesn't win. So I think, Devin Booker is going to continue to score, but it's all about the balance for the Suns team, the maturation process of Booker, the continued improvement of DeAndre Ayton, the former number one pick inside. I think all of those are going to be factors for the Suns going forward as they look to get back rather to the NBA Finals for next season. Now, of course, on the flip side for Milwaukee, the question is going to be, can they repeat? Most of their players are big players are back. They have to re-sign veteran forward PJ Tucker. He's 36 years of age. He's always been a defensive presence throughout his NBA career. And it's a situation where I know that Milwaukee's paying plenty of money to both Giannis and Middleton. I don't see PJ Tucker giving them a hometown discount, but at the same time, I don't see PJ Tucker looking to break the bag to go someplace else. He looked very happy with Milwaukee. He's been happy other places. Darn good player, hard-nosed player. And, it's a situation where, sometimes when you're happy, you don't want to, mess up that chemistry. So maybe he, gets paid, competitively, not breaking the bank, but it also not taking a low ball deal to possibly run it back with the Bucks next year. Bobby Portis can opt out. Bobby Portis, he might be a different case from the standpoint that he might be going to look to get some bigger bucks. Nobody's going to give Bobby Portis a max deal. Don't get me wrong. But still, with that said, it's going to be tougher for Milwaukee to keep Portis in their team for next season. But nonetheless, it's going to be an interesting offseason for both of these clubs. Like I said, they're going to have short turnarounds. For Milwaukee, I think their confidence definitely goes to another level, because they finally got over that hump. But with that said, to the victor goes the spoils, but also you have to deal with being the hunted. So now everybody is going to be gunning for the Bucks because they are now the defending NBA champions. So Milwaukee has to deal with that on a night in and night out basis, both at home and on the road for the coming season. Also in the Eastern Conference, people are going to still be looking at the Brooklyn Nets with their big three of Kyrie, KD, and James Harden. You wonder how the situation is going to work out with the Philadelphia 76ers. The Atlanta Hawks have now shown that they are a player. You want to see how teams like the Miami Heat and Boston Celtics bounce back. Both of these teams were in the Eastern Conference Finals in the previous year. So, it's a lot of things that you have to factor in regards to Milwaukee getting back to the finals. But the Bucks are definitely going to once again be players. Giannis is in the prime of his career. And now that he has gotten that first title, he definitely will be in the mix for another title. You look at it, and I think, this has really uplifted him and has uplifted this organization. Not since the days of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar have the Bucks been able to call themselves NBA champions. So that gives you an idea as to how long ago this was, or the gap, rather, between championships for Milwaukee. But this is definitely their moment to savor. I know some people are going to question it because it's a shortened season. I don't. You don't apologize for winning in sports. Somebody has to win. The Bucks were the best team, and I said at the start of this postseason it was going to be the best team who won. The Bucks flexed their muscles throughout. They were the best team. This is a reason why they are the champions. To the victor goes the spoils. There's plenty of celebrations going on in the city of Milwaukee and, of course, the state of Wisconsin. And for anybody who is a fan of Giannis Antetokounmpo, he really put this team on his back. He quelched the notion to join and form a super team. He did it in a small market with the club that drafted him. Kudos to him because you have guys that are not committed to the clubs, but the clubs are not committed to players either. So credit to Giannis for staying in Milwaukee, leading his team by example, willing his team to win, and now he has etched his name among some of the great performers who have used the NBA Finals stage to propel their legacies and take it to another level. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take the time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you are on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. You can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, signing off, saying take care and having yourselves a wonderful day.